Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new podcast from me, your host, Manu. So, this is a podcast about things, ideas, sort of random stuff, and here I try to sort of give a different perspective on, mine usually, but mine perspective tends to be different on different topics. So I like to go and challenge things because I think it's the most interesting part of going through an argument, and that's the only way. When we try to go and create some conflicts, that's basically the only way where we can go to a better knowledge of the argument. So every time I pick a sort of random argument and I try to talk through it. Today it's not really random, it's something that I was thinking of talking about, and I already prepared a little bit myself for it because it's better. I'm feeling that it's much better for me to sort of sustain my arguments a little bit more and try to have a get a little bit better in argumenting the stuff. And so today's argument is about something or a trend that I'm noticing in the past years, in particular in the entertainment industry. And whenever there is something that I'm noticing is whenever there is something very interesting and a lot of people, start liking a show and they get involved in it, and this show is going through the end, basically, you can see that the show, by the end, it gets bad. So probably the biggest example would be, there are many, but the one that it's more recent, the most recent trauma for me was the end of Game of Thrones, which didn't make any sense, and unfortunately we don't have the books to know how it would actually end. It might be that the ending is more or less the same, but unfortunately the way it has been told and how the characters have evolved then does not make any sense. It's just random. You can see that it's sort of rushed and we don't know why these things are happening, and they just sort of happen random. But today the show that I want to talk about is another one, and it's something that I'm noticing right now. And the show that I want to talk about is Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty is a sort of sci-fi sort of animation show. There are seasons. Every season have 10 episodes, more or less, I think. And every episode is like 20 minutes long. And when I started, I was so surprised by the mind-blowing ideas that he was trying to take on and explore, starting from the possibility, or what if there are different universes, and what if we could go through one universe to another, and what if we could go back and forth in time, what if we have someone with such an advanced technology that it can do that. And it tries to explore different scenarios, and that's so interesting at the beginning, because there are very big moral implications of and ethical implications of different universes, and have the possibility to go from one universe to another. For example, the fact that what if there is something that you don't like happen, Well, what you could do is basically go from one universe to another universe where the thing that you wanted to happen happened, and that's it. And what you would probably have to do is to get rid from your character, your person in that universe, and then you will just enjoy your life. Or another thing would be, what if something terrible happens and like you lose your family, and there is an episode that basically does that, the one where everyone in the world becomes like an alien of some sort. They decide to go in another universe where that thing didn't happen, and by chance the two characters, Rick and Morty, died. So that's really powerful, because then Morty gets in this family which he knows they're not really their parents, and he's like, who are them? And that's how the episode ends. Actually, he's looking at them and he's like, he's so confused by what he has in front of him. And we end up in that episode thinking about, wow, that's mind-blowing. And that's what the purpose of the episode is. And it keeps going in that way. Then I guess he gets used to them, but there is that sort of idea that things are not really are more complicated in these sort of universes. So now we are in season 5. So I'm recording, and I mean this is I'm recording this podcast in the October of 2021, and we basically finished to see all season 5. And yeah, I'm noticing, as I was starting to try to say at the beginning, that this show is getting sort of bad. It's not as interesting as it used to be, at least for me. And is not really making me think about such big topics anymore, because it looks like that it sort of explored everything they could, or probably the ones that they're trying to explore, they're sort of explored in a superficial way, as I would go through. So what it feels like to me is that in this season everything is so shallow, and a lot of things happens like nonsensically, and sometimes they're not even fully explored. Now this is sort of a critic. I don't expect things to get really don't expect me for people to get me that seriously, but I would like just to spark some sort of perspective. Maybe it helps for the show to get better, who knows. Maybe makes you think about it and be like, yeah, that's actually what is happening, and that's a little bit of sad. But it's also a little bit of a backstory, looks like. So before going through every episode, looks like that the same guys, authors, decided that, okay, we have to sort of get people out of Rick, because it looks like that he's so amazing and he knows everything, and people find him as a hero. We have to transform it as make it look like more something else, like someone that they wouldn't like. And I get that, but they basically transform it in some of these episodes. Looks like so it's sort of a puppet at some point, and I don't know if this is the character that they wanted to become. Not more likable. They should have made more or other characters more interesting. So what they did is basically take the main character and sort of make it dumber in some of these episodes. But let me go through one by one. So it's 10 episodes. I will try to go through very fast, and hopefully I will make you understand why I think that this season 5 it's not so good. So the first episode is the one about Mr. Nimbus, and I would say it's a cool character. Like it's made to be cool, so that's fine. But it's sort of weird that The music started very loudly, sorry for that. But it's sort of weird that it comes out of nowhere. And if he was the nemesis of Rick, you would have seen him already somewhere in all the previous episodes, in any of the previous seasons, somehow, any references or something. But at least I don't remember it. So it doesn't look like that it's an actual nemesis. It looks like that it's just someone that they wanted to appear as a nemesis. Yeah. And then something that I don't understand is that he can control the police. Now, they don't explain how, why, and what. They just say it's useless to call the police on him because he can control the police, which is sort of dumb if it's not explained properly, at least. And we have to just force ourselves to believe that, yeah, he can control the police. And so becoming like Jerry, basically, one of the main characters of the show, that is just be like, why? Oh, well, I will just get along with it. And so we have to become like Jerry if we want to make sense of this episode. And it's already 11 minutes. Okay, we just keep going. And we perceive as Jerry as dumb, so we have to become dumb too, which is sad, but unfortunately that's what we have to perceive Jerry. Then we have episode 2. And by the way, in episode 1 there are no consequences. Like, we never see Mr. Nimbus again. He just came out, solved the situation, and bye. Okay. Then episode 2 is about the multiplicity. It's like basically what if there are clones, robots, and what if then the robots think they were real and they made other robots. I would say that it makes up the question of who is real, but it's still shallow. Like, the consequence of that thing will be basically them going to another universe, because it's basically hunted by infinite number of clones everywhere. That's probably what's gonna happen. But something that really was weird about it is that in this episode, I'm gonna change because change music because what the hell? There you go. What if because everything happened in the same universe? Think about it for a second. Like, this is a show about what if there are multiple universes, technology, and everything. But if you think about it, they had to restrict this multiplicity concept in the same universe, in one. What if clones from other universe will come in? Like, it's actually exponentially crazy, but that's something that was missing in this episode. And also in this case there are no consequences. Like, you never see these clones happen again. Maybe the only thing that remains is what if any of the other episode comes from different clones. But no, we never think about it anymore. We just like, yeah, let's just put some episode here. Then episode 3, it's about Planetina and Morty. And here it's just weird because I don't know, they just wanted to create some sort of cross, get some ideas out of other shows, I guess. And so they use the power of the power of the rings coming from different elements to create this superhero stuff. And then this superhero becomes evil somehow by pursuing his own what she's supposed to be doing, which is saving the planet. There's a problem in that, is that this hero thing, it's being explored by shows a lot in this period. I guess they wanted to go through it too, but the problem here is that Morty, which is another main character of the show, it's the little kid, it's a psycho. Just to get a girlfriend, he's willing to kill people. And then he's surprised of when Planetina, to save the planet, which is what she wants, she's willing to kill people too. Like, what is happening here? It's really confusing. By the way, there are no consequences in this episode too. Like, when I say no consequences, you don't know what the next... the story doesn't change. The main story doesn't change depending on any of the things that happen in this episode. Then we have episode 4, which I just have to say what it is, and then I would just pass along, which is the one about the incest baby, where the incest baby comes out. And I'm sorry, like, that's just too much of... I don't know where the joke is, because obviously they wanted to explore this thing. it just fails to myself. Like, I don't know where they wanted to do about this, how they can even pitch it. Why? What the hell? Yeah, it's just an incest baby that comes out from Summer and Morty. They haven't done it directly, but this story just basically creates giant sperm and giant giant thing, and they get back together and somehow, and then they make this baby, and yeah, it doesn't make any sense, sorry. Then there is episode 5, which is about pain in general, and how there is this group of tribes of people that basically they get pleasure out of pain. That's why they like to hang out with Jerry, because it's so cringe that it's so painful for them that it's so pleasurable, and it's sort of lame. Like, in the end, it's interesting and clever somehow, but the pain characters, the characters that love pain, they have not real consistency, because they haven't figured it out by themselves that they are being lame by trying to avoid pain. The reason that you want to enjoy or get pleasure for pain is because you get so hurt from pain that you want to think that pain gives you pleasure, something like that, because you cannot stand the pain concept of pain. That's sad, because damn it, you need someone to come to you and tell you that you're lame. But yeah, because basically the full episode is a huge joke about people that say that they love pain, which is a little bit okay. And then something that's interesting is that, so in this episode Jerry is supposed to realize that he's actually boring and not cool at all. He's lame. He realizes it, but it's a pain in the ass that this is season 5. Like, everything happened to this guy, he still hasn't realized that. He needs another episode to realize that he's lame. Man, when is this guy moving on? And so it looks like Jerry keeps realizing it, and then he forgets, and it's like a rewind of the episode, which is a little bit sad, and therefore doesn't have any consequence, this episode. Then episode 6, Thanksgiving, which basically it looks like that people can become turkeys for some random reason. And it looks like that this is a tradition, which is not believable, because in 5 seasons this never happened, this never got mentioned. So it's obvious that they just came out with the idea, and that's it. And I'm gonna make the other song, because sorry. And yeah, no consequences, because obviously this Thanksgiving thing will be forgotten in next seasons. I'm sure about it. Then there is the episode 7, which is Gotron. So basically in this episode, Summer is the mastermind. Tries to become cool in front of Rick. But Rick looks like an idiot at this point. Like, in this episode, Rick is just trying to make bigger and bigger Gotrons. It looks like that, all the things that he went through in the past seasons, is reverting. He's becoming more stupid. So I guess in this episode they wanted to sort of making the character look bad so that people would stop liking it, but it's just sad in the end. That's not why, because it's just cool. Okay, and then they need a bigger enemy to beat, but they want to have bigger gods. Oh my god. Then there is episode 8. So we are arriving to the end of everything of this, and there is the story about the bird person, and it's sort of, it's actually very interesting to go through his traumas and the fact that he has to get over himself, get over them in order to find a reason to keep going. That's very interesting. That's very cool. Helpful, and he gave some backstory about Rick. It's the beginning of him giving Rick finally some backstory after 5 seasons. So that was likable. Then we have episode 9, which was very confusing to me. And I think they wanted to underline how toxic was the relationship between Rick and Morty. And they were like, okay, Rick can even survive and do better with 2 crows. And so in this episode, that's interesting because, okay, I get it. And then they sort of wanted to end up the episode with Rick actually saying, no, Morty, I'm going by myself and I will just go with the 2 crows. And Morty is super sad about it. And if you watch the after credits where the authors tried to comment about it, they were like, because we wanted to create an episode where there was actually consequences. Wow, you just admit that there was no consequences in any of the previous episode. And on top of that, you also said it's sad. This is sad because then if you watch episode 10, which I'm going through next, it's all reverted. They go back to Rick and Morty in like 2 minutes. But okay, like you just watch episode 9, you're like, okay, maybe there is some change, but you're like, I don't think so, because it's not believable that he goes with the 2 crows for long. It is the show. It is called Rick and Morty. It cannot be Rick and 2 crows. So okay, they did it. Let's see where they go. And so they try to create some consequence, it looks like. But then and create some consequence and try to underline how toxic was the relationship between Rick and Morty. Then finally we have episode 10, which is the final one, and it's about the evil Morty, which we were dying for the past 2 seasons. 3, I don't remember even when was the last time that he came out. And it was like, okay, now we want to know what this guy wants to do, and finally we get to know it. Now, first they had to revert everything, like of episode 9. They have to, okay, Rick is with 2 crows, but we want to get back to the main story of evil Morty, and we just forget about the 2 crows. In like the first 3 minutes of the episode, they're like, forget about everything that happened. There are actually no consequences of the full season, basically. Anything that happened in the 5th season doesn't matter anymore. We are going back to the main story, main quests. Forget about all the rest. I'm like, okay, cool. And then they crunch everything together. Like, my god, they could have made these like 3 episodes, the evil Morty story. They could have easily done it 3 episodes about that, or even more, or even a full season about this evil Morty coming out somehow and give more stuff. No, they just have a 1 episode in the full 10 episode season where they just crunch all the main story. And so what happens is that they have to explain what's the full story of Rick, which sort of explain why evil Morty exists. The full Rick's backstory is basically this guy that lost his bath and his wife from an evil Rick, and then he went to look for the evil Rick. He never managed to find him, and he started to kill a lot of Ricks. And that's his full story, which is very depressing. That's why he's so depressed from all these seasons. And evil Morty is basically coming out from this Rick being able to travel through, or having consequence of multiple universes. Evil Morty is basically a Morty that is had enough of all the bad Ricks that were out there, and were abusing Mortys. And so in fact, if you remember episode 9, it was the toxic relationship between Rick and Morty. In some universes that was way worse, and this evil Morty is the consequence of that, looks like. So it applies his plan. His plan is to kill all universes somehow, and go to live in a universe where there is no Rick, and there is no way for Rick to get to him. That's it. And we understand it, actually. We finally want it. Like, we are following. We totally understand evil Rick. Why is he doing that? We want to get away from this universe, or this season, actually. And we want to have something that has some consequences. A better place, a better universe, of story universe, where finally things have consequences. Yeah. It's sort of interesting parallel of him trying to get away from Rick, and Has trying to get away from a very boring season. So we are super happy about this. In fact, it's the highest rated episode of all the season. Of him, oh, finally, this was pretty bullshit. Let's finally get to somewhere else and the main story. But I doubt that in season 6 they would actually go through Evil Morty. They will probably do it again in a couple of seasons time, and people will get bored again. I mean, it's obvious that now they're just riding the money. They're just making seasons and episodes just to get people watching them and trying to do some stuff. Now, you understood my criticism when I went through all these episodes, mainly the no consequences ones. You can see that the characters have basically no evolution in the past 2-3 seasons. They're always the same, and we are getting actually distant out of them, because Morty it's basically a psycho at some point. It's okay with killing, he doesn't care anymore, and we don't understand that. The normal evolution for a character like this will be post PTSD, basically, and it would be like, what am I doing? Like, it would get crazier and crazier, and you would have Rick try to save him, and then you would understand why evil Morty exists, because he's one of those guys that went through this PTSD in the bad way, and he became totally psycho. I think that's a direction that would be more interesting and more understandable. But now these characters, like, yeah, they do all sort of bullshit. And you have this Morty which sort of saves Rick, but you don't really understand why at this point, because a lot of the bad things happen for him. Well, yeah, I'm sort of understanding, but there is no conflict, looks like, and there is supposed to be some conflict, actually. And also the character, yeah, had no evolution. Another thing, the characters are not aging. In the last 5 seasons, you look season 1, season 5, the characters have the same age. Now this is very interesting and sort of sad, because if you look when the Rick and Morty go in different universes, what's really interesting is that you see the characters basically getting older, now basically having the same age of them. And also there is a time of time traveling, so they go back in time too sometimes, and you see them much younger, and they go, I don't know if they ever went to other different universes in past times, but you see them younger in all these universes. But it looks like that in these 5 seasons they are always the same, they never aged. So there is the concept of time, obviously, and they're very proud of saying that all the show is about so time continues and everything. But it stopped. Looks like this timeline has stopped for all the universes. What are we watching? It looks like to watch The Simpsons at this point. We want to see Morty grow older with every season, basically. Yeah, that's it. That's what I wanted to talk about. And this show that is getting sort of not good, worse and worse, and I hope that it gets better, but I doubt it, because it's really about money at this point, and you can see that they explore all the ideas that they wanted, and the ones that they came out this year, they're not that good. Maybe it's due also to COVID, so I'm giving to them, but I hope that it gets better. And this is just, giving ideas and stuff. Please do not get offended or anything like that. So this was me, and I hope that you like this video and or podcast. See you next time. Bye.